When the exercise information came out, there was the base building, which was on your base salary, which we've built on every year as the increases come through, including the 2% that's coming up in January, if possible. Or there's the bonus portion, which was like a lump sum payment based on the new project being done or something along those lines. So those they plan to have completed in the spring. So, any questions on that piece?
Do they know yet what the rules for the bonus is? I mean, will it still be a third of the staff eligible, or will it be less than that, or is that based on that?
There's a lot of factors playing in. I'm not sure what the actual percentages are for bonuses at this point. I will say that, especially for the base building, they are looking at the lower paid staff first, but they are looking at all requests that came in. And then I guess I was asked to talk a little bit about recruitment, since we've been having a lot of those go on, and we will have quite a few of them in the near future as well. So just a quick update, we do have the executive assistant position that just closed this week for Lisa Carter's assistant. We will be moving into interview stage fairly soon for that, so keep an eye out for that. We do have the shelving and storage. We have a couple hires. We also have a couple LSA positions, library services assistant positions in interlibrary loan that will be opening up soon. So please get the word out. And I can't stress this enough. A lot of our hires come through the ask. The people sending this out to somebody and saying, "Hey, this is a great job, and we think you'd be great for it. Would you consider applying?" So really, we're asking everybody that when a position comes out, an announcement of a position comes out, if you think of somebody, if you know of somebody, please pass it along to them. When we look at our statistics for hiring, a lot of them come through somebody that was referred to us. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at positions that come through. We have a position in business service and business library. There's an LSA position which should be announced soon, so keep an eye out for that. That is a project position, so it'll last about a year. It may go longer depending on workload, but we are planning on having it for a year. And another position coming out shortly is the electronic resources management librarian. It's an academic librarian position, and I expect that to be announced within the next few days as well. We do kind of in December, once we get, like, this is our last push for the year. Once we get into December, it's harder to get people to apply for positions just because holidays and everything else going on. So we will be announcing other positions, but most of them will be pushed till after the new year at this point. If they aren't coming out this week, more than likely we're going to wait until the new year to start those off. Any questions for me on that? Okay.
And you just want to stay up here for the next portion,
and
Jesse can join you. Yeah. And I had your document up in it.
I think I see it on the bar tab here, maybe.
Oh, okay. I thought I had it in a PDF.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. This is. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hey everybody, I'm Jessie Henderson. I work at Digital Collections over in Memorial, and I'm going to report on this title and total compensation benefits valuation survey. Is that what the BPA stands for? I think so. It doesn't actually say. Oh, it says benefit preferences. But and the reason I'm reporting on it is because I've been part of a committee since middle of last year called the TTC Ad Hoc Committee, or no, it's the Ad Hoc Committee on Title and Total Compensation of Academic Staff Communication. So we're just a small committee of folks from around campus who will relay concerns to the folks who are higher up in the TTC process and share information with our colleagues. So if this is getting close to coming out and you have questions and concerns or things that you'd like to have passed up, you can go through me, probably you can go through Ann as well for that. Yep. And I do believe there's a university staff equivalent of this committee. But the reason I'm presenting on this today is I was just at a meeting Monday morning and got a lot of information about this survey that was coming out, which apparently we've been emailed about once, but being part of the whole TTC thing, I didn't even see, I didn't even notice it. So it may be coming out of left field for a lot of people that all of a sudden we're gonna have this survey to fill out. And whoever's taking notes, I can share this piece of paper with you at the end. But so the purpose of this benefit preferences survey is to find out what people value in their benefits. So they wanna know, what do you value the most and what do you value the least? And a huge thing about this is that a lot of people might see it and think like, they're gonna take our benefits away, right? So people are gonna be nervous about this, and hopefully you're gonna be reassured by this information that their intent is to not reduce benefits, the intent is to enhance benefits. So they want to get as high a participation as possible and hope that people will answer the survey knowing that this isn't about, they don't want people to game the survey so that, you know, thinking that things are being reduced. It's about sharing information so that things are getting enhanced. Some of the things that the committee I was on was stressing Monday morning was making sure that they're communicating very clearly about who's doing this, why they're doing this, and how it will be used. So I'm going to tell you about that now. So it's UW System is asking Mercer Consulting, who they've been working with through most of this TTC stuff, to submit this, conduct the survey, and they've built the survey. Again, they're doing it to enhance benefits so that we can make sure that we're competitive, we're offering competitive benefits, and also retain people, because maybe people are not as thrilled with their benefits now as they used to be. And they also want they say they want to use it as a bargaining chip with stakeholders, i.e. the legislature. So it's basically doing a referendum with the entire UW system, and they can say, we know what people really want, i.e. parental leave. People want parental leave. Can we talk about that? So that's part of what they're kind of talking about. So the survey is going to open on the 26th of November. It's going to be open for 2 weeks. Each person's going to get a unique link, and you're not supposed to forward that link on to your colleagues or anything and be like, oh, don't forget about the survey, because that link is mapped specifically to you. And with that, they are matching up your data that, in a sense, that they know that you're an academic staff or university staff. They know your age, and they're also going to know the zip code where you live, because that data is on file with your record at UW. But that's as identifying as it's supposed to get, apparently, and the rest of it will be confidential, so they can't actually map your responses back to you as an individual. And they want to try to get 70% participation, so if you don't participate, you will get hounded about it. But of course, this is, you know, it's like the election. This is your chance to have a voice about your benefits, so keep that momentum going and vote for your benefits. So the survey is going to cover about 35 to 40 areas of different benefits, and you're going to be ranking them, not really ranking them, but you'll have an example of what this looks like. But basically you're going to be saying what you value most and what you value least. There's also going to be some financial wellness questions. So one example they gave was, if you have a $400 setback, what would that do to you and your family? Because they want to understand, like, what kind of situations are people in, and are they, you know, people who are paid maybe not so much, are they in really like serious financial situations, and is this something we can then address? And this is also, of course, being driven by the fact that they've done some preliminary surveying of peer institutions, and we're near the bottom of the list of the quality of benefits that we offer. So that's another reason they're doing this, is so that our benefits can be better based on what people actually value. And that's kind of all I have as far as notes. These slides were shown yesterday at Monday at an academic staff assembly meeting, and we worked a little bit with Mark Walters, who's the head of HR, to kind of tweak the wording here a little bit so that people could have some really solid messaging. So they're calling it the BVA, Benefits Valuation Analysis. Yeah. So this is kind of covering those points, and I don't know if you anything you want to jump in and say regarding all of this?
Yeah, I don't have a lot more to say because Jesse covered quite a bit of it, but it just reiterating the fact that this is in fact this is good news, that they are not looking to reduce benefits, they're looking to enhance them the best they can. If you've been around campus or around UW for a while, you'll notice that we haven't done anything like this for a long time. We are kind of behind on actually evaluating our benefits and what needs to be updated. So this is actually a good piece. We hope people participate. And yeah, there was just a couple of things that I think you brought up about there's a few questions about financial wellness, and there's a few questions about like how much you identify with being a UW employee and things like that that are also part of this. But I hope you all participate in it.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a pretty lengthy survey, because the way that they made it sound is that a lot of the questions are gonna feel a little bit repetitive so that they can really fine tune and get like strong results from people. So there's gonna be a lot of questions. So here's just an example of what the survey is gonna look like and how you're gonna be, in some cases, ranking stuff, in some cases, you know, choosing which things are more attractive, less attractive. There's a couple more examples. I think there's maybe one more. And then financial.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah.
I'm proud to work for the University of Wisconsin. Those kind of questions will be in there as well.
Right, which they'll correlate with like responses to how you value certain things. So that's coming up. Keep your eye out for it. There should be messaging via Inside UW versus working at the emails working at UW. There's going to be emails from the chancellor, and I don't know. I guess I'll probably end up pumping it a little bit too, because the more we participate, the more we can say what we want.
And then I think they gave us a time frame of about 20 to 30 minutes to finish the survey, so plan on that. And also, I will mention that it says that everybody's allowed to do it on work time, which can not necessarily issue for us, but can be in other areas. So they can do it on work time.
Any questions? Again, if you have thoughts later or concerns or anything, I can help funnel that information back up to the committee that I'm a part of. Thanks.
Thanks to both of you. Okay, next up, we have a University Library Committee update from Michael.
So there have been 2 ULC meetings since our last business meeting, the second of which was yesterday. The October meeting was mostly a presentation by Doug Way on collection development philosophy. Those of you who attend CDPC have already heard it or heard a version of that talk. The 4 main themes, though, he emphasized that are driving our collection development decisions are prioritizing current, local, and anticipated needs for teaching, learning, and research, acquiring materials that best meet the user's needs and behaviors, meaning that people may say they prefer print, but the evidence, the data shows that in fact they're using ebooks way more, or the reverse. But taking into account not only what people say they want, but what we actually observe. Making use of partnerships. There are 10 million titles on this campus, but across the Big Ten as a whole, there are 115 million titles. So thinking of the whole Big Ten as our collection, which means we can decide to not collect in one area if another school decides that they will, and using those strategies to make better use of limited resources. And the 4th point is these decisions have to be continually reassessed. The slideshow, this was a 45-minute presentation. The slideshow, a link to the slides will be in the October ULC minutes that were approved yesterday, so it'll be, after some minor tweaks, they should be posted soon. So if you want to see Doug's entire presentation, the link will be there. At yesterday's meeting was a continuation of that. It was supposed to be a discussion of the faculty on ULC about what they thought of that presentation. It wasn't much of a discussion. It was more of monologues by a few vocal faculty members, most of them in the humanities and most of them much more interested in research than in teaching. And they actually questioned some of the decisions and emphasized it as a research institution. In fact, we do want to spend our money on the things that aren't held widely or that are more obscure, harder to get at. The problem with that, of course, comes down to money. Among our peers, we're way below the average in terms of library funding. This tension, though, between what the library wants to do for all of its constituents and what the faculty want to do for themselves might work to our advantage in that if the faculty are concerned that we're not collecting the way a research institution should, then maybe if they express that to the chancellor and to other administration, that the faculty can actually become an ally with us in the fact that we're underfunded to do what it is that we'd like to accomplish. So that conversation will continue we're sort of, that seems to be the theme that's running through the ULC this year in the January and February meetings. One of the topics will be, so given the fact that we don't seem to have the resources to do everything we'd want to do, how do we address that? How do we convince campus that we need those resources? So that will be an ongoing theme this year. At the December meeting, Lisa Carter will not be present at the December meeting because of other conflicts, but that meeting will be divided half between, it'll be in special collections. It'll be half a presentation on what's going on in special collections and half a presentation by Raina Bloom on what the Equity and Diversity Committee is doing. And then on the January meeting, Lisa wants to take up the library strategic plan, which of course collection development is part of that. We have a 5-year strategic plan that was approved in 2015, so it's now 3 years old with only 2 years left. And Lisa intentionally didn't want to talk about that until she'd been here for 6 months and gotten the lay of the land. But now that she's planning to update us on where we are on that 5-year plan and what do we want to start thinking about for the next plan that comes after that. The ULC meetings are public, open meetings. Anyone can attend them. The one in the December meeting will be on December 11th in special collections. Second semester, because of faculty schedules, they're changing the meeting time from the second Tuesday of the month to the fourth Wednesday of the month. So the first one in January will be on January 23rd. And again, anybody who, at 9 o'clock, anyone who wants to attend them can. Any questions?
Next up is Heather with one after the other professional concerns and Cassie updates.
Hello everybody, I'm Heather Sherman. I'm a librarian here at Steenbach, for those who don't know me. And I just have some quick slides. So as the Cassie rep, I just see myself as kind of the bridge between you and the other Cassies, which are the Committee on Academic Staff Issues, so that we can connect with other academic staff on campus. So I just want to highlight a couple emails that came out. I know a lot of us get tons of emails, so these are easy to miss, but I want to make sure that people notice them. So everyone would have gotten these. I just put like the date of when they went out, and this one, it's for the distinguished prefects. I think this is my first slide. So you can see, I don't know if people are familiar with the distinguished prefects, but it is something to look into if you're mid to late career. Librarians can get this. So this email had information on what it is and how to look it up, see if it's something that that you could get or that you could apply for. The other email I wanted to point out was for professional development grants and awards. So this is the Academic Staff Excellence Awards. So these nominations are due January 11th, and this email has information on how to nominate someone. So I just want to make sure people understand that these opportunities are out there. And so look in your email box for these. These will be in the notes from this meeting too, if you've lost these emails in your inbox. The other thing I wanted to point out that I'm not sure people know about is the Madison Academic Staff Network, and this is open to all academic staff. It's a $15 a year membership fee, and they hold different events and they do tours, like they're touring the WID, I think? Yeah, they're doing a tour of the WID tomorrow. So that might be a little bit late to sign up for, but they do like good, they have good like lunch meetings where people speak, and it's a nice group to be involved in. So the other news, just so you know it's happening as your CASI rep, is that the other reps are meeting in December so that we can talk about what we're doing and how we're representing you. The Librarians Assembly is a very different CASI than other CASIs on campus, so it's always interesting to hear what they're doing and see how it compares to what we're doing. Any questions about CASIs? Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about as professional concerns is that we're going to have a kickoff. So this is the save the date. It's not till January, so we'll send out much more information as we get closer to that. But we're going to do noon to 1 in Memorial Commons. So Professional Concerns Committee, we've started the @15s that I think many of you have heard about. So just adding 15 minutes on to this event and also other Librarians Assembly events so that we can all just kind of get together after and talk about what was discussed or talk about something else that you want to talk about. So we have the @15 events, and then we'll be adding some more events next semester, and then the kickoff is where we'll discuss those. We used the survey. We sent out a survey recently to hear what you're concerned about. So I know this is really hard to read. I just pulled this from Qualtrics, but we got the most votes on kind of what formats of things you wanted. Were presentations on topics related to professional concerns. So the kickoff is going to have a presentation. We'll do a panel discussion, presentation. And then these were the topics. It's really hard to read this. But this here, this is on workplace climate. So we'll do a panel on workplace climate. And then this was culture, workplace culture. This is workplace climate. And then we had on the top, hearing about what other libraries are doing. So we're going to have a panel by other library staff on workplace culture. Sorry, not climate, workplace culture. So, and then we'll also have chances for people to talk in small group discussions at the kickoff. So that's what we're planning with professional concerns. I think that's all I have for slides. And just want to remind everybody that we'll have an @15 after this meeting today in room 240 here in Steamtalk. So any questions about professional concerns? Great, thanks.
Oh, did you mention the new members, or were they in place as of last meeting? I can't remember.
Not sure. So Ellen Jacks and Kalani Adolfo have joined the Professional Concerns Committee. So, and then at the kickoff, we'll have all the committee members introduce themselves and talk more about what we do.
Thanks, Heather. Next up, we have the Treasury update from Pamela.
Hi everyone. I have to say, to date, this is the easiest position I've ever held. We have had no income and we've had no expenditures. So to date, the balance on our savings is $100, and in our checking account we have $1,591.88. So I encourage everyone who spends money on behalf of Librarians Assembly to get me their receipts. I would be happy to reimburse you. And as always, more than willing to take dues, if you were interested in paying them early. I know most people do this in April at the time of the high tea. But there's information on the Librarians Assembly website about how you could submit monies if you were so inclined. Thanks. Oh, any questions?
Thanks, Pamela. Next up, we have the programming update with Beth and Amy, or one of you. You got it? Okay.
So I'm the Beth half of that duo. Just a couple of reminders of events coming up. Friday, second Eat, Talk, Run of the semester. And it's featuring, as I said in an email, the thread is M's. Memories from Carrie Cressy, who will be retiring. So her recollections of 30 years at the physics library. At 12:20, we'll be hearing from David Waugh, talking about monetizing your living space, or how I turned my home into a bed and breakfast. And then 12:40, Heather Welton will be talking about mentoring, and we didn't realize it at the time, but it's a good chance to hear her before she moves on. What?
So abandons us.
Yeah, abandons us. So all library staff are welcome. We're always looking for suggestions on topics. If you're willing to volunteer to present, or if you'd like to volunteer a friend or colleague to present. In December, we will have our book sharing event. That'll be Thursday, December 13th, noon to 1:30 p.m. We will be providing coffee and goodies, and as always, Karen Dunn has graciously agreed to lead the discussion and compile a list of books. If you haven't heard about this event or attended before, this is a chance for us. People think when you work in a library, you get to read a lot and talk about books, and that's not usually the case, actually. So this is our chance to talk about what we have been reading and make recommendations, and it's a lot of fun, but it's very casual. We will start working on the high tea in April, and we do have one volunteer for the committee, and that's Mai Jung, who I think is not in the room at the moment, but we are very grateful for her volunteering. So does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you, and we hope to see you Friday or December 13th, or both. Oh, and did I say Friday's event it's the one for us, 10 o'clock scholars, or the noon scholars, who don't get up at 8:30. This one is at noon.
Thanks, Beth. So this next piece is going to be a little bit more of a discussion, I hope. I anticipate a lot of input. I hope there's going to be a lot of input. This is a carryover from a few meetings ago where it was discussed possibly changing the name of Librarians Assembly to Libraries Assembly. And so I brought up a document which I'll make available right now. It's in one of our folders, but I hope to make it more widely available. Just kind of some discussion points on this, some context for it. So as Heather mentioned in her presentation, our CASI works a little bit different than a lot of other CASIs. And so I just thought a little bit of context around kind of CASIs and what we are, would help us kind of define this a little bit. So first of all, the issue at hand is changing a bylaw, the current text of which says the name of this organization shall be the Librarians Assembly, General Library System of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And the idea would be to change it to the name of this organization shall be the Libraries Assembly, no possessive, General Library System of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So here's a little bit of background, which I'm just going to touch on really briefly. For those of you who are kind of new to this, and I'm kind of new to this, Librarians Assembly currently functions as the CASI for the GLS. So a CASI is a Committee on Academic Staff Issues. They were formed as part of legislation passed by the Academic Staff Assembly in 1998. So they're in some ways a relatively new phenomenon, at least compared to Librarians Assembly, which has existed much longer than that. So the idea is that CASIs advise deans or directors on formulation and review of all policies, procedures concerning academic staff members of the school, college, or division, including personnel matters. And then there's a little bit of little extra information after that. Elected and appointed members of each committee on academic staff issues shall be academic staff holding an appointment within the school, college, or division And that's important to keep in mind because as it functions right now, Librarians Assembly, while university staff are of course encouraged to attend and participate in meetings and functions, they can't actually be represented because they are not academic staff. All librarians are academic staff, but not all academic staff in the GLS are librarians. There are folks who operate at the academic staff level who don't have librarian in the title. So the thinking is that the name of Librarians Assembly is kind of a misnomer because there's academic staff represented in this CASI that are not actually librarians. At the same time, not all GLS staff are academic staff. University staff have their own organization, their own shared governance body, University Staff Congress. Librarians Assembly actually predates CASIs, and it continues to perform some of those functions that are atypical to CASIs. Like we've got the high T. We've got all these functions like eTalk Run. We actually are dues collecting. So there are things that we do that work a little bit differently. And also, we're a little bit different in that in most campus units, academic staff are the minority and the CASI is a means for visibility. So in a lot of units on campus, faculty is mainly represented. Academic staff are they need that representation. They need that extra boost for visibility. That's not necessarily the case in the GLS. It works a little bit differently here. So the first suggestion was just kind of change the name to Libraries Assembly, but that has some possibly negative impact down the road, some downstream effects that maybe weren't anticipated with the change of the name. So while it's inclusive of non-librarian GLS academic staff, it could also be misconstrued to directly represent GLS university staff, which would overlook their own shared governance, which would be bad. So that is one avenue we could pursue, but we'd have to do a lot of disambiguation to make sure that university staff realize that this is we're not trying to go into their territory. We want their representation to be recognized. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, we had a really good talk with Lisa Carter when the steering committee met with her. And one of the ideas that she proposed, and this is, I think, really valuable because outside her opinion, is she just said, why don't you change the name to Libraries Assembly and bring university staff into that? So we were thinking we could explore the feasibility, at least, of operating as maybe a single GLS body that had a CASI arm for academic staff and a USC arm for university staff. And some of the issues, these are just a couple of the issues we identified. We don't know if it's permissible by ASA or USC rules. It doesn't seem like it would be a problem, but we'd have to investigate that a little further. And would establishing a single body prohibit directly or indirectly academic staff or university staff from seeing their respective interests represented should those interests at any point diverge? So we would have to keep that in mind as well. Although one thing that I didn't put up on here that I just kind of thought about over the last couple of days is that in some ways it would actually really help university staff in a way, I think, potentially. I mean, we'd want university staff input on this, of course, but it would definitely, kind of in the way that Librarians Assembly has a CASI rep, a dedicated CASI rep, Librarians Assembly could also have USC reps. So there'd be like a position that's continually tied to both organizations. So they'd be representing the GLS on Librarians Assembly and also tied over to the representing organizations that they've got. So it would be more of a consistent thing, and there'd be more of a reporting mechanism. So we would all get together in single meetings and have all this reporting happening across GLS. So that's kind of a lot. Does anyone have any thoughts? Yeah.
An added bullet point under suggestion 1 is to keep in mind that the GLS is not the only libraries on campus. There are libraries that exist outside the GLS.
Yep, that is true. Okay. Any other points? Or thoughts on how we might proceed? Yeah.
A question or something, I guess it's just an observation. When we're changing it to Libraries Assembly, I think about the American Library Association and how that represents libraries and not necessarily, I mean, it represents trustees and staff and So I worry a little bit about taking out the worker part of the name. I just wanted to be clear that whatever this body ends up being called, it is for the people working in the libraries. It's different from University Library Committee, you know, it's not a place for the admins.
That's a really good point. Okay, other thoughts? Yep.
All other, I'm recognizing that our librarians assembly has other functions and such, but elsewhere on campus, they're just referred to as the CASI for blah, blah, blah. So GLS CASI, so just, it doesn't work with the university staff and the inclusiveness thing, so.
Okay, other thoughts?
Have we approached the USC to see if they're even interested?
We have not, and that would be the next step. This was just kind of a point for this meeting to see if we're interested in pursuing this and bringing USC into it.
Just thinking about, because again, the difference with Librarians Assembly, thinking about other CASIs, is that the sort of dues aspect. Dues aren't required, but it's something that it supports programming, right? Is how I see it. I don't know if that's correctly thinking about that, but that, I mean, I don't know if the bylaws relate to this organization as a CASI, or it relates to this organization as a dues receiving entity, which also has functions for CAP. So I don't know where things stand with that. Are they related or interrelated, or?
To see where the dues aspects of it, like the things that make it Librarians Assembly versus run-of-the-mill CASI, right? Where the divide
Exactly,
is.
because CASI, as a CASI, we represent everybody. The dues have nothing to do with that. I mean, as far as an organization,
Yeah.
and the CASI-related duties and representation don't relate to this whole notion of dues, I guess. So if dues and such are related to programming issues, that might be, I don't know.
Yeah, it does seem like this would probably require change in more than just the one bylaw with the name in it. This would probably be a pretty thorough change in bylaws, so that's acknowledged.
I just want to also add that CASIs in other schools, in the schools, what they would call CASI membership is what we call LA steering.
Oh.
So membership on the CASI level in other units, you're elected to be a CASI member. Whereas for us and our membership, it's not the same as being on the LA steering.
Okay, that's a really good
So
point.
we have that huge difference already.
Yeah.
I think, I do like suggestion 2, but I think we're gonna have to be prepared for, conflicts of interest. We just, it's, you know, as much as we wanna be one happy family, we have a lot of shared interests structurally, it's just different. I
Sure.
mean, I don't even know, like, to attend to attend shared governance things, do university staff have different rules to follow? Like, do they have to get permission from a supervisor, that kind of thing? I don't know.
I did, I looked at it, just because.
Other thoughts? Yep.
Just kind of on that note, it seems to me like that if this does work out and we can be kind of what suggestion 2 is putting out there, seems like it is a great way to foster more understanding about issues like workplace issues that maybe we're not hearing from each other or listening to about each other, and then also to hear about what's going on at the university staff committee if somebody's reporting out, and it's not just for university staff, but we can also listen and hear and think about and then be advocates for each other, that maybe over time we just have a better understanding of how everybody feels in their space and in the job that they do.
Yeah, I think so.
So I don't know much about the university staff sort of setup. I would want to make sure whatever solution gave them more power and not less.
Yeah.
They definitely compare the average GPA is like 3.7. I know people who.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Have like 3.5s.
Anyone else?
Or it's like
Does anyone have any idea? Oh, yeah, Michael.
So you're repeating the themes and mostly work on what Heather said. Librarians Assembly predated the creation of Cassie's, and I think we all think Library Assembly would benefit from including university staff. If there's a problem with us including them as a Cassie, maybe the solution is to spin off Cassie and make Library Assembly what we want it to be for staff engagement and cooperation, and create something else to be the Cassie.
That would work too.
I like that idea. One thing I do worry about is I want to make sure that whatever the body is staff driven and not administration driven, that it doesn't get co-opted, we have to think about what the assembly, the library's assembly would do, and it'd be us doing things. We do have HR doing staff development, which is great, but it's different than us doing staff development.
And any thoughts on how we might go forward with this? Like, what do you think an obvious next step would be?
A survey of academic staff?
Survey of academic staff? Do we want to survey just academic